A disaster swept the world, and only 2.5 cities fell apart. A huge meteorite covered the whole Earth with flames. But in the face of this unprecedented natural disaster, the government decided to abandon most humans and only send the elite to the shelter. Faced with this ugly conspiracy, where will humans go? The story begins on a clear weekend. John is a top architect. Although he is good at work, he is not at home all year round, which leads to a crisis in his marriage. On the way home, John is still thinking in the car about how to get back with his wife. He didn't pay attention to the broadcast at all and was broadcasting the hot news of recent days. A super-large comet called Clark will pass through the Earth. Experts say this will be the closest comet in human history. But John was in a hurry at the time and didn't listen at all. After driving back home, his wife Allison was running. Although they were talking about the party, the atmosphere was a little awkward. John wanted to talk about the divorce agreement, but at this time, his son Nathan suddenly returned. He was very happy to see his father again. Seeing his son there, Nathan didn't say much because there were still a lot of ingredients to buy at the party. John rushed to the supermarket with his son. But just after getting off the car, a roar suddenly came from the top of his head, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Nathan pointed to the sky and kept urging his father. When John looked up, he found a large group of fighters in the sky flying far away. And there was a small light spot which was constantly shining with light, which was the meteorite Clark. At that moment, John was a little confused about so many planes. Obviously, there was some major military action to gather so many fighters, but it had nothing to do with him. After a while, he took his son to the supermarket to buy. But today, John, who was destined not to calm down and was buying things, was suddenly interrupted by a noise. The alarm from Nathan came from John's cell phone. He was confused and picked up the phone. He found that it was written National Land Security Bureau and the sound of a machine inside. It was reporting this presidential alert and told John to bring his family immediately to prepare for withdrawal. At the same time, the TV in the house also sounded the alarm, but because his wife was washing her hair, she didn't receive it, and there were all kinds of military trucks outside, as if there was a war going on. He realized that things were getting weirder and weirder. John hurried home and told his wife whether he had answered the phone. His wife, who missed the alarm, could only shake her head. And at this time, the party in their house had already begun. Many neighbors and friends were watching TV in the living room. John could only walk by car, but luckily he had a double-decker. They finally entered the Air Force Base. The soldiers gave them back 10,000 bags each and asked them to get on the plane with 10,000 bags and asked them to carry only one package. It was a smooth entry. The family finally relaxed. Nelson's son was also suffering from diabetes at the time and needed to be injected with antibiotics to survive. But when he was packing up, his wife Allison found the child's antibiotics missing. She asked her son, and he knew that he was going to be left in the car without antibiotics.
Nelson's son couldn't live long. John discussed with his wife to let her son board the plane first, and he rushed back to get the medicine. But what surprised John was that not long after he left, when his wife asked the soldiers for help, she told the soldiers about the child's diabetes. The soldiers changed their minds after hearing this and told Nelson that patients with chronic diseases are not allowed to board the plane. They said they would take Nelson out. His wife struggled hard to find the officer and asked him loudly if this was his family. "You didn't let him board the plane either." But the officer told him plainly that his family was not selected, including all the soldiers here. So at the end of the day, they were all relying on their faith and voluntarily serving the people. This made Nelson unable to say a word. How could he blame his son for giving up his life? In the end, in order not to leave his son, the two were driven out. And John, who knew nothing about this, had already got the medicine, went back to the base but couldn't find it. He thought his wife had already boarded the plane and had no choice but to take another flight. As a result, a man saw the medicine in John's hand on the plane and told him that patients with chronic diseases would be driven away. At this time, he realized that his wife might have been driven out. Seeing that the plane was about to take off, he still gave up his seat for his wife. Coincidentally, the defense line outside the base had collapsed at this time, and a large group of civilians with guns rushed into the airport. Under the desire of the crowd, they completely became rioters. The soldiers in defense were shooting, and the soldiers who were cheering were hit by the bullets. John, who saw this scene, shouted loudly and told the people in the plane to leave, but it was too late. The bullets still ignited plane fuel. In an instant, the sky was filled with fire and several planes stopped, and the light that everyone hoped for burned out in the fire. Fortunately, John came out in time and there was no big problem. After his wife was driven out, he found their abandoned car, but now it was destroyed. His son, Nathan, had a diabetes attack and he was exhausted. Allison had to leave a note for John and let him go to his father's meeting. Then he took his son to the drugstore to look for medicine. The drugstore was already in a mess at this time. Everyone was crazy for drugs, but luckily they still found the medicine. When they were about to leave, the gunshots woke up everyone in the drugstore. A group of rioters rushed in, carrying guns and shooting to drive away the crowd. Frightened, Allison pulled his son to lie on the ground and hide. He crawled out step by step and finally crawled to the door, but he was hit by a black man with a gun. The love in the house kept stimulating Allison's nerves, and she knelt on the ground and begged the black man. The black man seemed to have realized it, and he had finally chosen to let the two go. Allison, who escaped from the drugstore, stopped a couple driving. They thought the other party was kind, but they didn't want the order to collapse. The ugliness of humanity would be exposed. Although the couple agreed to help them and were very enthusiastic along the way, when they found Allison's bag, the man who was driving showed his evil face and told Allison that he would be kind enough to take his son on the plane. After that, they didn't say anything. They took Allison out of the car, threw her on the side of the road, and stole Allison's bag. The two wanted to pretend to be Allison's parents and sneak into the airport. In order to survive, the good-natured people can also become face-to-face. The couple drove to the airport. The man was threatening Allison not to say a word more. Allison, who was frightened, could only do as he said. But just as the two were about to pass the security check, Allison shouted at the soldier and took the initiative to tell the soldier the matter. The couple's plan failed. Allison was also taken away by the soldier and sent to the detention center. Allison, abandoned, almost collapsed after losing her son and stopped a car on the way to catch up with her. But the passers-by were too indifferent. No one wanted to stop the car on her way.
Allison was desperate to give up. A car finally stopped. Although it was just a minor incident, it brought her a glimmer of hope. On the other hand, John also encountered the same incident. After he escaped the airport, he found a note left by his wife in the car. He hurried to his father-in-law's house and got into a big car. John, who was not prepared, accidentally revealed the bag in his hand. The man next to him saw it and told him why he was chosen. It turned out that the government's election was based on the profession. Anyone who could help rebuild the disaster would be selected. John did not agree, but it did not prevent him from having no choice. Kind John told John that they already knew where the shelter was and invited John to go to Canada. There was also a plane, but it was delayed by John. Now he has to find his family. Family is more important than anything else. He can't abandon his wife and escape alone. Although John is a good man, not everyone is like this. His bag was targeted by another person. It was hit in the car, and more people joined in. Everyone was thrown out of the car. John, who got up, grabbed the wolf's head and danced. He didn't want to cause trouble and fight with them, but the two of them forced each other and killed each other in the end. The wolf's head stuck into the man's head and fell heavily. John didn't expect this ending. John left the scene, almost running away. The black man in the car died on the spot. John, who left, borrowed a car from a house where no one lived and finally came to his father-in-law. Allison, with the help of many people, finally came to the airport and found her son, Nathan. She was sent back by the military. John and his father-in-law drove to pick her up.
The family went through many twists and turns and finally reunited again. The marriage crisis at this moment seems to be gone. After saying the words of cherishing each other, everyone went home and planned to have the last dinner. But the news on TV gave John hope again. It turned out that the media had confirmed the shelter on Greenland. The black man didn't lie to him and suddenly saw hope. He decided to gamble again and persuaded his father-in-law to go with them, but his father-in-law refused. He planned to stay to guard his memories with his father-in-law. Suddenly, a meteorite fell down again. There was no time to stay. Even if there was a lot of misfortune, he had to say goodbye. John took his wife and son to the hope of life, and his father-in-law stayed to guard his beauty. Under the sky, the color of dusk covered the sky. The end of the day was coming, and in the car, Allison looked at John driving. For her and her son, the man who could give up everything also chose to forgive. The two finally made up in the end of the day, but the danger was still continuing.
On the way, John met a traffic jam again and wanted to wait a while before passing, but in the next second, it suddenly started to rain. The pieces of the meteorite fell down and ignited a car. John's car rushed into a small road and finally hid under a bridge. But John, who had come to the bridge, found a burning car. Someone was trapped. Cindy's kindness made him reluctant to be so indifferent and drove him out of the driver's seat. In this indifference, even if his hands were burned, he was not as anxious as his conscience. The good people naturally had a good news. They avoided the meteorite and finally found the airport at night. They thought they would miss it, but found that there was still the last plane at the airport and was about to take off. John rushed into the runway and successfully stopped the plane. The captain who got off the plane was very angry and told them to take the plane tomorrow. How could John believe that now the end of the world is coming and there is no tomorrow? But the captain said that the plane was full of people. If you pull people again, everyone will be in danger. John could only beg for the captain to take his wife and child with him, but his wife did not want to leave John alone. It seemed to be moved by their family's feelings. The captain still let them get on the plane and took them to Greenland. On the plane, the tiredness of many days suddenly relaxed, and John finally fell asleep. In his dream, he dreamt of the laughter of a family under the sunset. When he woke up, the sky was already bright, and the plane passed through a cloud layer. The beautiful scenery of Greenland was in front of his eyes. The green grassland of the glacier river and the azure sky were all showing that this would be the last place for humans. Looking at all this, everyone on the plane also relaxed. But no one expected at the next moment a huge shard fell from the sky not far from them. The impact of the huge impact almost overturned the plane, but it still lost momentum. The plane barely landed on the ground and finally crashed into the glacier and stopped. A huge ice surface hit the driver's seat. Everyone got off the plane, and John went to check on the captain, but at this time, the captain was powerless to return to the sky and was crushed by the huge ice. Seeing that he was unable to escape, the captain told John to leave quickly and told John that he had seen a plane landing not far away. Obviously, the shelter was not far away. After saying all this, the captain also died of excessive bleeding. John could only lead everyone to leave. After a long journey, a group of people were finally found by the soldiers, and they were rescued. When they entered the shelter, the largest shard also hit the earth. The hot waves swept the world in a minute. Everyone hurriedly hid in the bottom of the shelter. John's family hugged each other in the countdown and prayed silently. They always said that when people die, everything before their death will be like walking a horse. John also had the happy life as the fish wave passed. The shelter was opened again. It was 9 months later. The sun shone into the earth. The surviving humans finally saw the scenery of the ground after 9 months. Although the sky is still gray, the cold Greenland is already a piece of solid soil. Everyone is buried, but they are fortunate enough to survive. A bird flew by. A new world will start again from these surviving humans.